see. Yep. All righty. Well, it's been a few weeks since we had our last Tuesday talk, and we're excited to be back. And I'm very, very grateful to my colleagues who are here because it's daylight savings is this thing in the US. If you haven't been to the US yet, or you don't like fully understand, the time zones have shifted and we are now 13 hours or 16 hours, or I don't know where you're tuning in from. But anyway, there's a shift, which means that it's really early in the morning for my admissions officer colleagues, and especially to read on the West Coast. This is not even, I don't even consider this morning. This is middle of the night for him. So I really, really appreciate people taking the time out of their busy schedules. And it's reading season. So they're having to spend a lot of time in student files. And so I really appreciate them taking time to do this little talk with us. Thank you for everybody who's joining. As we are getting ready here, I just want to make sure that all of you are kind of understanding the nuts and bolts. Let me share my screen really quickly so that you can get a QR code if you need. For those of you, sorry. Oh no, why is this not working? I've done so many Tuesday talks and I should know how to share my screen. I apologize. Okay, here we go. If you are needing, if your Zoom is not cooperating with you, we are streaming on YouTube, so you can go there. The bottom QR code is that. And if you need Chinese support, 如果需要中文服务, scan the 10-cent code, and there will be colleagues of mine there who are able to take questions in Chinese or type in Chinese for translation support. So, and also go ahead and get your Q&A box open, because we love to answer questions. That is what we are here for. And when we are talking, when we're doing our talk, we're actually hoping to fold in your questions as we're talking so that we can cover as much material as possible. So if you know right away, you're like, I'm confused about this, I've been confused about this, go ahead and put your questions in, and then we'll try to fold them in, and we will have time at the end for Q&A. So the chat box is also open. Only we will see that. So if you have a comment or a question that you want to put in there, you're welcome to put that. And I might also ask you at some point to put in the chat what you're feeling or what you're thinking or what you're assuming about college and careers. So before we dive into the topic, I'm going to have my colleagues all introduce themselves real quick, and I'm just going to call out, and you all can tell us who you are and how long you've been at your institution, and then one fun fact. Yay. So Christy, do you want to get us started here?
Sure. Hi, friends. My name is Christy Ruggieri. I'm the Director of Global Enrollment Strategies at Northeastern. Been doing admissions for quite a while, but just joined Northeastern specifically over the summer. And then one fun fact about me is I actually was an Initial View fellow back in the day. So I actually worked for Initial View and lived with Gloria for a little while.
That was so fun. I'm sure it was fun for a little bit.
No, it was great. It was great.
Awesome. Okay, Deb.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dev Devrat. I use he, him pronouns. I'm an Associate Dean of Admission at Reed College. I've been with Reed for about 5 years. And my fun fact is that I am a massive Taylor Swift fan. I've met her mom. She has no idea who I am, but I knew who she was. And I've been to pretty much every concert of hers for the last decade, and often am the first person in line of every city that I go to see her.
Very cool. All right, Doug.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Doug Harrington. I'm an associate director here with the Office of Undergraduate Admissions for Binghamton University, part of the State University of New York. I have been with Binghamton for 7 years professionally, but am also an alum, so about 11 years when you include that time. Fun fact about myself is that I'm a big theater person. both watching and participating in, both acting and directing, and I can actually tap dance.
Wow, so cool. See, I love the fun facts. Awesome. What's a show we should be watching?
Oh goodness, there's so many great ones out and about, especially if you're close to New York, I always love going down to the city and seeing, anything that I possibly can, whether off on or off Broadway. It's a lot of fun to go see.
Okay. Put in the chat later some recommendation. Okay, Sean.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Sean Tarantelli, Assistant Director of Undergraduate Admissions at RPI, also known as Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in New York. I've been with RPI for about 1 year, although I'm a native of the area. I guess one fun fact about me is that I actually spent a lot of my career as a teacher and lived in Korea for a while. I spent about 14 years in Korea. So
Oh, nice.
welcome for those on the other side of the globe. I know what that time difference is like.
Awesome. And again, my name is Gloria. In case you don't know, I'm one of the co-founders of Initial View. I have been with Initial View since it began. So technically, we incorporated in 2009. So that is how, wow, that's a long time. We are celebrating our 15th anniversary. So that's cool. And my fun fact is, well, I've shared tons of times, but I have 3 kids, and one is in college, and one is a senior, and one is a freshman in high school. So this is the first year where I feel like, oh wow, I'm like nearing the end of like the opportunity for me to like really be imparting my last bits of wisdom before they move out. This is the first year I am starting to feel that. So fun and exciting. And also for any of you parents on the call, like I am alongside you, completely understanding the stress of this process, the excitement of this process, the confusion of this process. And so hopefully I can help kind of navigate that with you. I am putting up just a real quick poll up here because we love to know who's here to see if you're a student or a counselor or a parent. So if you, hopefully you're seeing this poll. Yep, here we go. Great, yay. It looks like we have a good mix. Some of you are seniors and that's great. I'm glad you're here. And I love seeing younger students getting on top of the process. We even have some people who graduated already but want to keep thinking about options, and that is awesome. Especially when we're talking about how college is interacting with your future goals, careers, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Just give it one more second. Yeah, it's a good mix. We've got like a third students, a third parents, a third counselors, and of the students, a third seniors. So that's cool. Thank you for joining us. And we're going to let the admissions officer share real quickly about their colleges to just give you a little bit of context of where they're coming from, and also for you to start kind of thinking about what type of institution you might be looking for in regards to your future. So, Doug, go ahead and get us started.
Yeah, hello everyone again. My name is Doug Harrington with Binghamton University, part of the State University of New York, or SUNY system, as you may or may not have heard of it before. We are a public institution here in New York State. We are actually one of 64 different public schools here in New York State. And we are pretty much right in the middle of New York, which is very convenient for a lot of our students. Because we are very central to a lot of different cities in the Northeast. You have New York that's 3 hours away, Philadelphia 3 hours, Boston, Cleveland, Washington, D.C., Pittsburgh are just a little bit farther than that by car. So it's very convenient for our students to not only go out and explore the Northeast, but also when it does come time to find those internships and full-time jobs, segues, into, finding those successful careers after you graduate. So our location is super prime for our students and, just experiencing everything that the Northeast has to offer. So as I mentioned, we are a public institution and we are considered a public Ivy. So basically meaning that you can get an Ivy League quality education here for a public school price. Binghamton is known as a #4 best value in terms of public schools in the entire nation. So you can get a very strong return on your investment here at Binghamton. We do have over 130 different majors and programs broken up into 6 different schools of study. So we have your arts and sciences, engineering, computer science. We are known as one of the top 10 public business schools in the country. We have nursing, so we have quite a bit offered in terms of our academic programming. And in fact, we are also an R1 research institution, so lots of amazing research opportunities available for our students as well. Where we've had students come into Binghamton with zero experience in research that have ended up being published by the end of their first year. So really amazing opportunities in regards to research. We do have about 14,000 undergraduates in total, so we are a nice mid-sized school. And we do have just about 1,400 international undergraduate students on our campus as well. So we are about 10% of our student body is considered international, ranging from over 100 different countries here at Binghamton. So we are a very global campus here. Lots of amazing cultural and student-run organizations on our campus. As you can see, we have over 450 of them. So there is quite a bit offered here at Binghamton. So very excited to join you here this morning. You can always feel free to ask me anything about Binghamton here. As you can see here, we are considered a premier public university in the country. So always feel free to ask anything if you're interested in studying in New York or at a public institution in the States. We'll be happy to answer any of your questions. So thanks so much again for having me today.
All right, I guess that's me. So, hi friends, once again, I'm with Northeastern University. So what I really want to focus on with us, as you may be familiar with parts of our global network, is that we are a global university. So we do have our Boston campus, that's historically where we started, but we also have locations in Oakland, California, and London. We're actually opening another location in New York City on the Upper East Side later this year. And so what's really important to us at Northeastern, regardless of what you choose to study, regardless of the location that you choose to study with us, is that you're going to get hands-on learning. You're not going to just be reading out of a textbook or memorizing theory. We want you to experience things. And so that is kickstarted by our global campuses, being able to learn from diverse cultures from many different backgrounds. But one thing that's really important to us is co-op. So we'll talk a little bit about that later on, but we do have the #1 co-op program in the country. So work experience is really, really accessible for our students. So I'm really excited to be here to talk about that today. As you can see, that leads to really strong outcomes. 97% of our students are in graduate school or have a job offer within 9 months of when they graduate. And almost 60% of the time, our students are receiving a job offer from their employer before they even graduate. So students of all backgrounds, we have over 300 different majors. So unless you're looking for underwater scuba diving, we typically do have it, which is really great. And when it comes to student life, one thing that I always really love to highlight is we actually have the second largest international student population in the United States. So including graduate students, we have over 20,000 students from around the world on our campus. So regardless of where you're from, you're certainly going to be finding like-minded students with similar backgrounds to yours at the same time, making new friends and learning from communities all over the world.
Alrighty, friends. So I'm here from Reed College. We are a small private liberal arts and sciences school. We are located in Portland, Oregon. So we're on the West Coast. Reed is the school that Steve Jobs went to. That's my fun fact about Reed, before he started Apple. We have really small class sizes. Our average class sizes are about 15 students with a 9-to-1 student to faculty ratio. Classes at Reed are taught a little bit differently. We teach classes in what we call conference learning environment. So we have very few traditional lecture style classes. Instead, imagine sitting around a table, the professor leads a guided conversation, discussion, a little bit of debate, which can be kind of fun. So it gets you involved in your learning. You get to ask tough questions and challenge ideas and really get that front row seat in your learning experience. We have a really unique feedback-based grading model. So there's a common misconception that Reed has no grades. That's not true. We do have grades. What is true is that you will never see your grade at Reed unless you ask to see your grade at Reed. So if that sounds interesting to you, let me know, and I'm happy to talk to you a little bit more about that. We send more students to graduate and PhD programs per capita than almost any other college in the United States. That's our specialty. So students that come to Reed often have a goal of going on to continuing education. That's not everybody, but most of our students end up doing that as well. We have a nuclear reactor on campus. It's a research reactor. It's almost completely student run, which is also fascinating. And if you've ever seen the Iron Man movies, imagine Tony Stark's arc reactor, but 25 feet wide in a 25,000 gallon pool. And then we have a phenomenal senior thesis project requirement where we give you the funding and equipment that you need in order to write your own thesis your final year. And it's gives you the opportunity to, I like to say, nerd out on anything you want to nerd out on. So these are some of our fun facts here on the screen. We do have a club called Cheese Club, and it is our most popular club on campus. We are about 10 to 12% international, and have over 70 countries represented on campus. Thanks so much, everyone.
Hi again. Here on the screen, you can see a little bit about Rensselaer Polytechnic, just some facts and stats about us. A little bit about us, we're a medium-sized institution in upstate New York. So kind of similar to Binghamton, we are sort of equidistant between New York City and Manhattan. We also have Montreal to our north. I think something about our student body that you might notice with the size is that we're still a quite diverse student body with that smaller community feel. So we bring in students from all across the country, and we still do have about a 10% international population as well. If you hadn't heard of us before, we were created in 1824. We've been around for a long time as the first Polytechnic Institute in the United States. Our alumni range from the director engineer of the Brooklyn Bridge all the way to the digital camera and the first email system. So we've been doing science and technology for a long time. I get asked that question sometimes, what is a polytechnic exactly? What do you mean when you say that? And really what it means is just a focus on STEM education and anything in science and technology. So we have excellent long established programs in the School of Engineering and our School of Science, but we also have a School of Architecture, a School of Business, and a School of Social Sciences and Arts. However, being a polytechnic, even these programs have some element of science or technology or mathematics interweaved into them. So think about that when you're thinking about Rensselaer too. Today, I think, choosing a college can be tough and this whole process can be tough. So I hope today will help demystify or provide some clarity to that process. And I think it's helpful, to think about rethinking college as a quote unquote major only experience. A lot of times students think about college as going to college, studying your major, and then starting your career. But I think college and the college environment can be so much more than that. It can be a place, especially at Rensselaer, where you have a lot of clubs that you can enjoy. You have a lot of research you can do, which can really help give you more experiential learning activities, which helps you stand out more as a candidate when you go to start applying for jobs after you graduate. So yeah, again, welcome and thanks for coming.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to dive into our conversation. We're gonna talk for everybody's benefit. I mean, we've talked a lot on Tuesday Talks about fit and about how to find a college that works for you and for the college, how they're looking for a community that fits them. But today we're gonna focus a little bit on thinking about choosing a college with your career in mind. And I think most of you on this call and most people internationally, given the amount of effort and money and, your whole kind of education shifting a certain way to go toward going to the US, I know that the outcomes piece is super important. And that you're kind of thinking about your ROI. You're thinking about if I go to this college, am I going to get a job afterwards? I know that's a lot on your mind. So we're going to talk today about kind of questions that are good to ask, as you're doing your research, and maybe you already have kind of your list curated, but you're like, now now as I start hearing back from schools, these are ways that I'm going to be making my decision as well. So we're talking about questions. We're going to talk about how to take advantage of career services offices on college campuses, and kind of things you should do right when you get there. um, then we're going to talk about what the difference between internship and co-op is, and kind of what other opportunities there might be to work while you are at school. And then obviously, if you have questions, we're going to try our best here. There are specific considerations for any student, and especially international students, that you want to kind of think about as you are looking at the options. And then general advice on how to make the most of your time now as a high school student, your time right when you get to college, and right after, as well. So again, if you have questions, now is a good time to start asking them, just so that we can make sure that while we're talking, we're also yeah, answering those. So real quickly, let's talk about kind of good questions to ask. And anybody on this panel can kind of dive in, but these are some of the questions that we already put up. But what are, when you are at a fair, at a table, and somebody comes and asks you a question about outcomes, like, what are you hoping that they ask you? Any of you can dive in here.
Well, I think, you mentioned, so you just kind of mentioned about a previous Tuesday talk about finding that fit, right? And I think that kind of, that career piece also leads into that too, right? You want to be thinking about the fit in terms of careers. If you have an idea of what you might want to do, that's a good starting point, right? You never know where you're going to end up, because I guarantee you most of the people on this call didn't think when they were in college that they were going to end up in college admissions or anything like that, right? Because there's no college degree in college admissions. So you want to keep an open mind, but you want to have an idea of where you might want to start. So it's really good to ask those questions of, where historically have your alumni go? That's a good starting point, because, you know, a lot of the universities on this call probably have alumni all over the world in a lot of different organizations and a lot of different fields. So historically, we can say where we send our students, but you also have to keep an open mind where we can get you wherever you want to go, right? So if you have a really niche field or interest that you have that you want to go into, most likely we have those resources on campus to help you with that. So be asking about the college and career centers on our campuses, and what kind of resources that we have, because it's never going to be too early to start thinking about that, so that you do get the strongest return on your investment when you're at any one of our institutions here.
Another thing I would add is thinking about, of course, all the questions here on this slide and the supports that the institution is going to provide you, but the location of the university is also going to dictate the types of relationships they have with employers, right? So all of our universities have great career services offices. And yes, we have relationships with employers all over the world, but our location is also going to dictate a little bit of that, right? So for example, Northeastern's in Boston, we are going to have more ties to companies in the Boston area than we are on the West Coast where Reed is located, right? So think about that too, because if you know that there is a particular industry that you're excited for, or if there's a location that you might be interested in working to use your OPT after graduation, the location of the college is going to dictate some of what those relationships look like. And I want to be clear, with every university, there's always possibilities, but the ties are going to be stronger for some organizations than others.
The only other thing that I would maybe add is don't wait until your senior year to go talk to your career services office
Yeah.
or whatever the office is at your institution that you end up going to. A lot of those places are excited to see you even during your first year, or at the very least starting in your second year, and start building those relationships early, because the better that they know you, the better that they're able to help you find that career, find whatever that next opportunity is. So make sure you're going in early. Don't wait until the last, your last year of college, to go make yourself known. There's a question that came up in the box about whether you should choose a career path, even if it isn't very lucrative. Should you still consider it anyways? And my answer to that is absolutely. I can maybe assume that a lot of us on this Zoom call are not in a lucrative career, and we still do this job as because we're passionate about it and we love working with students and we really, really enjoy it. So don't, while yes, money is important in that kind of thing, um, think about pursuing those careers that you're also passionate about and that are going to bring you joy. I have been in a lot of roles myself that have been far more lucrative and have been quite miserable in it. So, those are the things that you want to just make sure you're thinking about or balancing as you're kind of making these decisions.
And I think one thing I would add that, a secret that colleges don't tell you is that you can reach out to them. You can reach out to their admissions departments and ask them questions. See if you can get in touch with a student who maybe is an ambassador at the school to hear from a student's perspective. What is that school or what is that program like? I think for a lot of students, choosing a college is really important, but choosing a college where you feel like you can be successful is also important too. It's about, planting yourself in really fertile soil or, a place where that you can grow really well, I think is an important thing to consider as well. So always see if you can reach out and, get a feeling from the people in the school that you can talk to as well.
Yeah. And that is why we have these Tuesday talks, because I want you to be able to meet, to see that there are real people on the other side who actually can answer questions and want to answer questions and care about people. And I try really hard to kind of bring a diverse group of schools and institutions on the call so that you can see that it's not a particular type of school necessarily that can offer you success, right? Like you might find the best opportunity at a very different institution than your friend just because of personality and what you put into it, right? And that so I think for all of these things, like we're basically encouraging you. We're really excited that you're here because that already shows initiative. But like when you get to a place, or even before you get to the place, reaching out to admissions offices, reaching out to current students. That is what we always encourage so that you can kind of feel like, okay, how are they feeling? How did they walk through this process? And then you can kind of learn from that. So we touched on career services offices. And Deb had a good point of like, go right away, go right away and introduce yourself. I know that when I went to college, one of the things that was beneficial to me in going early was realizing that I needed help with my resume. And that is something that you want to start building. You're already building it. You've been building it in your high school career. But now, as you are choosing your classes, choosing how you spend your time, thinking about how putting that together is so critical no matter which institution you go to. So any other comments on how to take advantage of career services offices? Somebody on the other another platform is asking, what kind of support will the school provide to college students in terms of finding employment?
I think one thing that is nice to highlight is that you are going to have an academic counselor, academic advisor while you're at university. That is someone that is a full-time professional that is focused on your academic success at the university. So if you have questions about what classes do I need to take, can I add a minor? Am I on track to graduate? You're going to have your academic advisor. But in addition, through career services, you're also going to have a career advisor. And this is a full-time staff member that is here to support students through their job search, through their career exploration. And so, yes, the career services office will offer all of these things, but I think it's also really nice to call out to know that you will have a professional staff member that is there and available. You can schedule meetings with them. You could have one-on-one conversations. Think of them kind of like your guidance counselor, or if you have a university counselor right now that's helping you navigate the college search process. It's very similar to that. but when thinking about your goals post-graduation. So really great. And just like Deb was already saying, someone that's accessible to you as early as your first year.
I would also add just that there are a lot of different things that they can help you with, and sometimes things that you don't even realize they can help you with. So I think this slide lists some of the more common things that most career services offer, but that's why it's important to get to your college's career services office early, because you can then kind of figure out what is my school's career service offer. I'll speak to Reed really quick and say, like, our institution, while our career services office also provides all of this, our folks will, if you've got an interview or something coming up, and you don't have a professional outfit, we have a fund where we will buy you an outfit. We will literally take you to the mall, take you shopping, get you sized, buy you an outfit, help you get it tailored, in preparation for your upcoming interviews or whatnot. So there is oftentimes a lot of like tailoring to your needs that they can do, um, beside just everything that they commonly do for all students.
Yeah, I think it's been, mentioned a couple of times, but I can't reiterate enough that just start early and don't be afraid to go. Career services at RPI, but at many schools are very much a meet the student where they're at kind of resource. I think a lot of students suffer from the fear of, oh, I'm not ready to go yet, I'm not sure yet. And then they kind of wait until the next year or wait until later. Start from day one. Really introduce yourselves. I think, we have students who come in their first semester and they sit down with career services and they say, I know I want to work at Boeing in Seattle, and that's all I want to do. And then from day one, that's the goal. Great. And equally, we have similar students who come in, even with the same major, who say, I'm doing this major and I'm not really even sure what companies I can work at. And, we meet with students in a similar vein to help them navigate that pathway for whatever they want to do. So again, start early and really work through it.
Yeah, I'll add just because I have a freshman in college. um, and uh he went to a career fair very early on. It's only November and he just went because he said, why not? I need to like learn how to do this. And just doing that was enough to kind of like help him think about his next semester's classes. Like he had to pick his classes for next semester just last week. And I think going to a career fair and getting a little bit of feedback from an employer very quickly, even though he admitted he was like, it was a little disappointing. There was one company who just handed my resume back and said, you're not a CS major, so we're not even going to consider you. And he was like, what? But it helped him kind of think about like, I'm going to talk to my academic advisor about this, or maybe I need to kind of think about certain classes I want to take. And I just think your journey I think because of the application process, a lot of colleges ask you what major you want to major. You feel like you're locked in. But the beauty of this starting early and really asking lots of questions is that you are going to evolve and continue to develop as a person. And having someone alongside you to say, none of these opportunities are wasted is going to be great for you. And you can just build on top of that and take advantage of that. So, and yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit because some people were asking about different opportunities that are available. And I have a question here. It seems like it's more difficult for international students to find internships and co-ops. So, as we're talking about what these things are, if y'all want to weigh in as well on kind of how specifically international students can be cared for in this process.
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of students, the two words you see on the screen, internships, co-ops, is what a lot of students will end up either getting during their time in school or over the summer, like during their breaks and such. Um, and you'll see a lot of your peers do it as well. And I would say students usually graduate with at least one internship or co-op prior to graduation. A lot of students are doing more than that, depending on what kind of field that they go into or what kind of connections they make. Um, and it's still possible for our international students to get these internships. Of course, again, this is where working with the Career Services Center or our International Student Services Office, come into play. You have those resources available on our campuses that you need to take advantage of, even from your first day on our campuses. Making sure you're going to those offices, introducing yourself, making those connections, because they are there. Their sole purpose on our campuses is to help you, is to make sure that you are getting what you need. So you want to go and make sure that you make those connections. I mean, internship, I see the question about internships, not necessarily major related. It will depend, if you find an internship that is major related or not. But what's really nice is that there are often a lot of ways that you can spin it where you can to have an internship in something that you're passionate about, but it is also related to your major. So I always use myself as an example. My fun fact today, I'm a big theater person. I was a business student here at Binghamton, marketing specifically, and I had a marketing internship at a regional theater in the Hamptons, which is on Long Island, in New York here. Which was great. And I got to go out there for 3.5 months and I got to work with big theater people and everything like that. So that was a very strong passion of mine that I was able to combine my passion and my academic interest into one. And, those opportunities do exist for students, whether it be major related or major adjacent or whatever it might be. It's just really opening a lot of doors for you when you make networking connections and getting in front of a lot of amazing people at all of our campuses.
Also, don't knock the internship opportunities that are on your campus as well, right? A lot of colleges will hire students for internship opportunities on their own college campus. I employ 3 international students in our admissions office, and they help connect with our international student populations and talk to them about their lived experiences and whatnot. And those are internship opportunities. Those are paid internship opportunities at our office. So, a lot of these opportunities that are on campus are also often really, really great opportunities to help you start getting those professional skills that you'll need in any industry. Um, and then to kind of piggyback off Doug's point about the correlation between like career choice and major, like I think Doug was the one that said in the beginning, like there is no degree in college admissions, right? And we are all doing that as a career, right? So sometimes there's some really great correlation, and then sometimes there isn't, and that's okay, right? I was a communications major, and I'm working with international students doing international admissions. The person on the other side of my office wall at work was a biology major in college, right? Very different majors, and we're doing the same job. And so, don't necessarily, it's not often where your, maybe not often, but it's not always where your major is always tied to your career, right? You can make career changes. Higher ed is my third career change. I've worked in 3 different industries now, all with the same college degree.
I think to build off of what you were just saying, Dev, is that, the amazing thing about internships and co-ops is that you get to try out different industries with no strings attached, right? So some students, they're going to, do an internship or a co-op at Apple and it's great. And they work with them for a long time and get a job offer and off they go. For other folks, though, you might try out an industry or try out a company and you realize you're like, wow, I actually don't like working for small startups, or, wow, working for JP Morgan is way too big for me. I actually would prefer to be at a company that has less than 50 people. And that's okay. It's okay if you end up not loving the work experience that you get in college, because knowing what you don't want to do is just as valuable as knowing what you do want to do, so that when you graduate and you're actually starting to find find those first full-time positions, you're equipped with much more knowledge about what you actually like. You're able to be more intentional with the positions that you apply to, which will increase the chances of you actually landing something that you're excited about and meets all of your needs and your goals.
Yeah, this is something where again, I really tried to get students to think about or rethink college about just a major only experience, major as in like a major of study. I think, when I talk to a lot of our students on campus, yes, a lot of them do find their internships or co-ops through career services, but students who are active on campus in clubs and doing research often find opportunities for internships or co-ops through doing that research through a professor or like someone in the club that they did. A student I talked to just last week told me, "Oh, I'm doing research with a professor. The professor used to work in this industry. They told me you should go apply for this internship that's coming up," and basically paved a red carpet for them to, be in that internship. And I think having those connections really, really helps students to get a leg up rather than just, sticking to your major and studying that. So, think about school also just as a vast network of opportunities for you to get connected to a really wide range of places where you can do things with internships or co-ops or then beyond that as well.
And I think, again, kind of going back to the career services centers, a lot of them will do on-site visits. They will with the connections that, we have with our alumni and everything. I know at Binghamton, there's something that I took advantage of when I was a student. We did visits in New York City, and I visited maybe 10 different companies in a week where I got to go and get a feel of the company culture. I mean, Christy was mentioning about, JP Morgan versus the startup, those figuring out those different questions that you have to ask yourself. And that, our universities kind of give you everything in between, with that, going and meeting different alumni at these different companies, getting a feel of the company culture of the industry that they're in, asking those questions one-on-one to give you the best experience and to answer as many questions before you have to, move into those worlds as well.
So of course, for international students, there's definitely some stress with whether, these specific things that might be different for them than a domestic student. And there's even a question here. It's like, do employers have a bias against international students? And I don't know how much we want to weigh in on all of that, but if any of you want to kind of cover some basics of like what an international student should consider or think about in terms of like when they're looking for work in the US versus maybe looking for an internship back at home. Any thoughts on any of that?
One thing that I would just say is the reason why we're on this call is because we have international student populations on our campuses. We welcome international students, and I want to reassure you that we have the supports to help you navigate this. So yes, on this slide, we are talking about the different ways that students are able to continue working in the United States on an F1 visa. It is an additional step that needs to be taken to update your paperwork to be able to take advantage of those work opportunities. But I want to reassure you, we have international student services offices here that are going to help you navigate that process. So don't stress too much about it. But similar to like we were talking about with career services, if you know that you want to take advantage of using your CPT or OPT during or after graduation, make sure that you go to your ISSS office, let them know that this is something that you are interested in, that you want to take advantage of, so you can get the process started on updating your paperwork so that you have a seamless transition into those opportunities.
Good advice. Any other thoughts?
The other thing that I would also, and I can't really speak to a ton to like the US employers, but like globally, there are so many employers, right? And there are so many places that you can go. So don't limit yourself just to, being employed in the US, but like globally, there are so many things that you can do and have successful careers in. And so I just wanted to kind of add that piece to it as well.
Well, we have 15 minutes left, so I want to make sure that we kind of answer any questions that remain. As we are waiting for these questions to come in, do you have thoughts, other words of advice related to maximizing the time now and the time, like we've talked about it. I have lots of things to say about networking and soft skills, but are there words of advice on how to kind of maximize every moment of even now before they get to college, but also in college on how to like think about careers?
I think I would say to just have an open mind. Very similar to choosing a major almost. Um, just have an open mind. You might have an idea of what you might want to go in, but even now and when you're in college and everything like that, if an opportunity presents itself, don't dismiss it immediately just because you might think you might not be interested in it. Just keep an open mind because you never really know where you're going to end up.
I would say
Earlier,
that,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh my gosh. I was just going to say that college is what you make of it. You can go to the best school in the world, but if you just go to class, barely go to class, and then go back to your room and doom scroll or watch Netflix until, you have class again the next day, you don't put yourself out there, you don't join organizations, you don't network with, your faculty members, your advisors. At the end, when you graduate, you are going to have less opportunities and doors and options and a resume that is not as strong as someone that goes to maybe what is considered a smaller or less known university. They really put themselves out there. So to your point, Gloria, there's not a one size fits all approach to what you need to take advantage of when you come to college. But make sure that you are putting yourself out there. You're finding what excites you. And that could be, that could be a Jedi club, that could be Dungeons and Dragons, it could be kickball. Like, it doesn't necessarily just need to be academic, but any way that you put yourself out there is going to help open doors and opportunities for you after graduation.
I think
I
if I
always
could
share, sorry.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I only share this because I think it is in the founding of Initial View, one of our actually our very first investor was actually one of Terry, my husband and co-founder, one of his professors. And that is something interesting as well. Like, the network is not just about, the network isn't just about like figuring out what you want to do. The network is just about a community that kind of stays with you, right? So this was just catching up with a professor, and he was like, how much money do you need? And that was like, we weren't asking for it, just kind of fell into our laps. And that is just from building a strong relationship with a professor. There are, people who start companies together with their classmates, or, your classmates become your investors, or your classmates are the ones who introduce a job to you. So that networking piece goes beyond, just like for to get a job, right? It is like relationships that you build that kind of help you figure out like what brings you joy and excitement and how to make the world a better place. And then Dev had mentioned international students in office, and I just had to say this too. If any of you have met my colleague Wen, she worked at the international admissions office at Georgia Tech. And it was the admissions officer at Georgia Tech who contacted me and said, do you have internships? Because I have a student who needs to go to China, back to China to help with her family. And that's how she fell into this. And now she's been with me for a long time, a long time. She went on, graduated, went to grad school, did a bunch of other stuff, and came back. And so these cool like things, it's about like character, it's about your soft skills. Like, people will recommend you somewhere, and then that could build a connection into a new career that you didn't expect. So Sorry, Sean, I cut you off.
I think you took everything I was just going to say. I think if I could, if I could add, I mentioned at the start of this that I kind of spent a lot of my time in Korea as a part of my career. And I think if I could kind of flip that in a way, I was an international, not student, but worker. And I think, what I kind of experienced with myself and other colleagues is that sometimes that experience of being in a very new and different place can be maybe sometimes isolating or alienating, but it doesn't have to be. I encourage the people that I met when I was there, and I encourage our international students to, and just students in general, to just um, be comfortable with being uncomfortable, be unafraid to try new things and experience new opportunities. And again, it doesn't have to be an academic thing. Just doing something for fun can help grow that network again that, like Gloria mentioned, stays with you throughout, and that can eventually lead to something later on that you never knew would end up on your lap. So keep that in mind as well.
And to Gloria's point, the soft skills are also incredibly important, right? I think we often think about going to colleges and getting these degrees and getting those hard skills just to get that dream job of ours. But the soft skills are just as important as the hard skills, right? Like collaboration, communication, teamwork, the ability to problem solve, the ability to work with people that you don't get along with, right? These are all skill sets that are important to have in order to be successful, especially if you want to, if you're kind of thinking, even more into the future, like as you're promoting, kind of working your way up the hierarchy in whatever career field you move into, those soft skills become even more so important then.
I love what you said about, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. And so, that is something, for many of you on this call have the hard skills. I mean, like that is why you're looking at institutions like these. Like you know that you have the chops to be able to get into colleges like these, and you have the hard skills to to be successful. The thing is, so does everybody else who's going to be at that institution. And with the development of all this technology and all AI, there's a lot of things that we don't even need to learn anymore. And we have to learn a whole new set of skills to go with these, what AI and technology is providing for us. And so I've talked to many employers that were like, I know that all of the people in the pool have what it takes when it comes to the hard skills. What I am most concerned about at the end of the day is, can they play nice? Are they collaborating? Are they leaders? Are they, and that kind of thing is why we have these Tuesday talks and why I have an Initial B platform to begin with. I want you all to practice that and practice being able to, it's not comfortable putting yourself out there for many of us, right? And so this idea of practicing, and even if there's rejection, even if there's like, you're not ready for this, even if it's like, oh, I'm not sure this is the right field for you, it doesn't matter. Like you getting yourself out there and being uncomfortable a little bit is a great skill to practice and will be beneficial to you for your life beyond beyond grad school, beyond your first job, your second job. I am probably the oldest on this call and I am still learning those lessons and still trying to figure out what I love and what I'm good at. So these are all great things to be thinking about. And I'm so glad that you're here early to learn and grow from this. Any other questions or comments? I know some of you have really specific questions about the universities that are on this call. And so I'm going to share the screen to make sure that you have their contact information. Like all of these colleges have their own virtual events as well. They have again, they have current students that want to talk to you. They have people who really want to, just give you advice and give you help. And I'm just excited about you all being here. And anything to add, my colleagues? One last word of advice is people, especially to those seniors, what would you say to them right now?
I mean, my go-to piece of advice, I mean, it seems like we've done it so far, but just making sure you're asking us your questions. Yep. Don't be afraid to ask us your questions because that's our job, right? That's what we get. That's what we're here to do. We want to help you navigate this process and help you find the best fit university for your studies. So please, if you're emailing us constantly, don't ever apologize for it. That's what we're here for. We love to speak with our students and to help out as best as we can. So that's usually my go-to piece of advice. Don't be afraid to ask your questions. As someone who didn't ask their admissions counselor a single question going into college, please make sure that you are.
You're going to end up where you're supposed to be. Like I mentioned before, college is what you make of it. It's not just about the name of the institution. It's about the experience that you have, the people that you meet. So I know it's really hectic now, but just know that everything will work out and everything happens for a reason.
I would say be bold and be brave. There are so many colleges out there. There are so many lists out there that rank every college in every possible way you can imagine. And I would say it's okay to kind of put some of that stuff to the side and think about what are you looking for in a school? What are the things that are important to you? What are the things that matter to you? What are the resources that matter to you? And then kind of think about all the different opportunities and options that are available to you, right? Sometimes it is those smaller names that have the biggest impact in the trajectory of your life.
I think one thing that doesn't get talked about often enough is that it's okay to trust your gut when choosing a college to go to. If you just feel like the vibe of a place or the people is a really good fit for you, then maybe you're in the right place. It's easy to kind of get lost in the numbers and the stats and the data, but sometimes you kind of know when you talk to people or kind of see the place that that's where you want to be and that's where you'll be successful, and it's okay to trust that too.
Amazing. Well, it has been a pleasure as always to have a fun talk early in the morning. And hopefully some of you can maybe go back to bed or get to the office early and go home early. um, but for all of you who joined us today, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to have another Tuesday talk in a couple weeks. Just keep your eye out on all of our socials about summer programs and how to think about those for you younger students who are here who are looking for something to do this summer. That might be a good time to join in. Again, always reach out if you have questions. This is we're all wanting to be here for you. We know it's a stressful process and just wanted you to remember that there are people on the other side who are real people, genuine people who are excited about your futures. So great. We will see you. Have a great night, afternoon, morning, day, wherever you are. And we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.